Hello everyone, this is Lisa with Grace and Old Paper. I'm here today with a flip through of this little baby journal I made. I made it for a friend of my daughter's. If you watch my channel for any length of time, you know that's really what I love to do. Is I love to make journals for people that either I or my daughters know. And it just makes me happy. I love giving them as gifts. So I made this one, and I have filmed a few videos on about how I made it. But if you haven't seen those, then I made this one, number one, out of a Cheez-It box. My husband loves Cheez-It Grooves, and so I always have these boxes on hand. And I reinforced it so that it's good and sturdy on the spine especially. I made the cover out of just a bunch of scraps I had. And some of them were little bitty. So I didn't have much of them, like this one and this one and this one. There's several of them on here that I had very, very little of. And so I made the scraps, and I made them, they are a little irregular, but I wanted them to be that way because I wanted this to look more homespun and kind of old-fashioned. So I sewed all of the scraps together on my sewing machine, and then I put the batting on the back of it and hand stitched around every little square. I just kept it by my chair in the living room, and as I was visiting with family or watching TV, I just sewed some a little every time I sat there. So it took me a little bit, but I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. And then I have sewed it onto the box so that it is very well secured on there. This thing measures, let me measure tape, measures approximately 5 3/4 by about 8 1/4, 8 1/2. My ruler doesn't go that far, and 2 1/2. So I did cut the Cheez-It box down just a little bit to make it a little more narrow. It has a removable spine dangle, and this is pretty much all repurposed materials. I think the only thing I bought was this little It's a Boy ribbon, and I bought it for another journal I had done, and so I still had it in my stash. But all of the beads and everything came from either stuff that was given to me, used, or thrifted, repurposed stuff. Except for also the little mechanisms up here. And like I said, it is removable. So our friend that gets this journal, if you want to, you can take it out to make it easier for you to journal with. You can leave it off if you want. This is yours to do what you want with. But it just clips right back in the top. If you can see this little piece of the interior fabric, I don't put it behind there. I put it right behind the signatures of paper, and it just slips right in there. And so it's easy to take off. I am going to take it off for the purpose of this flip through. You see it has 6 signatures. Each signature has 5 pages. I think there's a couple of signatures that have 6 folios, which means the folded piece of paper. And I sewed these in with embroidery thread. It is the palest yellow. It's kind of hard to tell, but it is the palest yellow. Also, have quite a few little bits hanging out. It has all of the threads where I sewed things still hanging out, but they're all knotted. So if you don't like the threads, some people do, some people don't. If you don't like them, you just snip them off and then they'll be gone. It does have a ribbon closure, because if anybody is like my daughter, she fills one up until it's overstuffed, so it helps to have the ribbon closure. I did put some interior fabric on here, this lovely little check. And I have this little pocket sewed on. This came off of a vintage shirt. And so it's adhered on there. And I put this little prayer in. If you want to pause and read it, you can. I backed it with some grid scrapbook paper. And that just slips right in there. This is a photo frame. And I put some scrapbook paper on it, and I just put this little image in there just to have something in the front, but it's from a children's book, and I put some vintage index card on the back. to our friend, you are welcome to take this out and put something else in there. You can write on this, put a photo on it, either way, and just slip it back in. Totally up to you. I just wanted to have something in there. And I can get it back in there. Here we go. So this page I have, this is some fabric trim that I glued down. Very vintage. Have no idea where I got it from. Typical. Little fussy cut from a children's book. This is scrapbook paper, and I had this washi tape that's got these little baby feet. Just love that. When I put washi tape in a book, I glue it down as well as just stick it down, because washi tape is not permanent. But when you glue it down, then it stays on there for a long time. This is a vintage piece of stationery. I just thought it was really cute. I wanted to clip it in there. There's some of the sewing I did. And like I said, it is knotted, so you can just snip it off if you want to. This is a little children's book. And since it had the publishing info on there, I had these little pieces of fabric that I glued on here to make a little pocket. This is a Tim Holtz picture frame. And I just put some like photo plastic on there. And I haven't put a photo behind it, which you are more than welcome to glue you a photo in there if you want to. You can leave it out. You don't have to use it. But my daughter and I kind of thought it was cute how it framed the baby right there. Isn't that sweet? Got some children's book. And you can see where I have sewn the signatures in right here. I have some fabric tabs in this book too, and I think all of the materials are what I used in the cover, with the exception of maybe this one and that one. I don't know if I have that one in there, but they still match and they still go. And anytime I used fabric tabs, they are sewn onto the material, but they're sewn onto a little snippet of paper, and so that I can glue it paper to paper, which makes it more sturdy to me. To me, when you sew on paper, and especially like on a tab, because you're punching holes in the paper, to me it would make it not as sturdy. I just prefer to do it this way. And also that way I can prepare all of my tabs and then just put them where I want them. This has a little paper tab to let you know that this does open up. It is glued on to this scrapbook paper, but it's just extra journaling space. This is a coin envelope I made, and inside it I just have just some journal paper, and I just slipped it in there, and then it gets just hung over the top and paper clipped on. And anytime I used paper clips in here, I tried to use some older ones so that it didn't look all shiny and brand new, with the exception of a couple of gold ones I have in here, because I ran out of those. This is some ribbon trim that I have glued on the page. I'm going to start this again because I had an alarm went off on my phone. This is a vintage playing card. I just really thought it was cute. And it's got the 3 of hearts on it because this is her third little baby boy. She's got 3 boys. Some rickrack. And this is from a little children's book I had. I just thought that was so sweet. Another little children's book. And this is, it's actually stick-on lace trim, but I glued it as well. This is some guest book page. Scrapbook paper. This is We Sing children's music books. I love those. Grab them every time I see them. This is a gift. Excuse me. It's a greeting card. But from what I hear, his nursery is beach, ocean themed. So I thought that was really cute. And I put this little image in there, which I love the artwork. But I put this little image in there because this was a birthday card. And so I needed to cover that up. And on the back, I put this library pocket. And I have this little library card and this little poem. Little fussy cut. He's got his little sailboat. You row your boat. There's some more sewing. Is this paper trim? This is from a very vintage book I have. I just love the little image of the little boys. And in it I stuck a journal card and this piece of paper that I got from somewhere. This is the only one of it I had, but I love the vintage look of it. Got some sewing on this edge that goes on the edge of this pocket. I didn't sew here and here because I didn't want it to just go halfway across. So I glued it here and there. I just didn't want that sewing on there. And inside it I put this little piece of children's music. I just thought it was cute. And if you don't know, a lot of people that you can glue on, you know, photos or whatever you want on here just to use it as journaling space, and just slip it back in. It's a piece of from a journal I had, and it's got pieces of scripture on it. It's a scrapbook paper, ledger paper, children's songbook page, and everybody knows that if you're happy and you know it. And on the inside, since this is working on the railroad, I had these vintage cards that I just thought was really cute. And I just stuck that on there. Little piece of ephemera I had. And this opens up. Nice spread here. Little fussy cut I had. This washi tape, if you can see it, it has little stars on it. I just love this washi tape. I put a little bead trim here. Little fussy cut. This is actually Noah's Ark paper, and I just love it. Sewed on the bottom to help with this pocket little detail, and I glued it here. And this little poem says, "When the voices of children are heard on the green and laughing is heard on the hill, my heart is at rest within my breast and everything else is still." I just love that. It's a journal card. And this was scrapbook paper, and I turned it into a journal card. This paper is actually printed with Peter Rabbit, the whole story. This came from a lady. I had purchased a box of just a bunch of random ephemera and stuff, and this paper was in it, and I just love it. If her little boys are anything like my grandsons, they all love tractors. So I just thought it was cute. This piece of paper is a piece of stationery that I have been just dying to use, and I have never found anything to use it in until this, and I just thought it was really precious. And I just clipped it over the edge of this. This is tea-dyed paper right here, and I only have a couple of pieces, I think, in here of tea-dyed paper. When you use tea-dyed paper, if you put photos on here, you need to back the photos with like scrapbook paper, because from what I hear, tea-dyed paper is not archival safe. It is not photo safe. The rest of it is, but the tea-dyed paper is not. But I love tea-dyed paper because of the feel of it, the kind of crinkliness and the age looking. I just love that. But I didn't put much of it in here for that reason. This is a field book page, and I love using field books. And what I do is I take the spiral bound part apart and I put this together backwards so that I can use the holes to put ribbon in, because I love that look. And I have joined it with washi tape, again glued so that it's good and sturdy. This is actually a, one of those, if y'all remember those old mailers that you could write your letters in, which I always thought was kind of weird because somebody could just do this and read your whole letter. But I love the vintage look of it, and it is vintage. And then I made this faux button on here as a closure, so you can do what you want in there and then close it back up. This came from a children's book, I think an encyclopedia book, or children's encyclopedia. But I loved it because I think her last name starts with C. If it does not, then it's still cute. Piece of trim I have. This is a fussy cut from a little children's book. It was something about a turtle. I can't remember what it was, but I just love that little turtle. This is again from a vintage children's book. Goes along with the beach and ocean theme. And I found this sweet poem to put in here. And it is backed with, this is actually the inside of a front cover of an old paperback book. So it is naturally this colored. Now I just realized I didn't put a ribbon in there, so I need to do that. Let me set that aside so I remember to do it. On the back is this little fussy cut of this little bear. This came from, I had it in my stash, and I don't know why I kept it all these years, but it's from like the mid to late 90s. It was a calendar, and every month it had a little bear on it. And this was the one, I think, for the summer, but so it had the beach. This is a piece of vintage children's music from an old book I had, and my daughter thinks they came from Kentucky. I hope so. If not, it's still a cute piece of music. This is from a poetry book I had that had this cute little image on there. This is a Project Life card, and I put it on here so it can flip open and you can journal or put pictures in it. And it's also a tuck spot. And so I made this little card to put in there. This cute image of this little boy. It's just on some grid paper. And it just slips in there. On the back of it, this is actually gift wrap tissue in this pale blue, and I glued it onto here. This came from, what are those magazines? I cannot remember the name of it. It's an old magazine with just lots of lovely images and stuff. I just thought it was really cute. This playing card, I only have one of it, and it's Beatrix Potter, Peter Rabbit, but I only had this one. This is this envelope. Isn't that just the cutest? I love that. And inside it, I put another one of these little cards and this image of this little boy from a children's book I had, and he's got his little sailboat, and it's just on some blue cardstock I had. And that slips in there. This envelope is sewn in. What I do is I had to steam it open, and then I sew it in here, and then I close it back up, glue it back up. And this just helps it stay closed. Let me make sure I'm still in frame. I'm notorious for getting crooked and getting half out of frame. This is paper trim that I glued on there. Just a little fussy cut. And this little puppy dog, got him out of a book I had too. Just put some paper on the back. Some trim, sewing trim I had, and some rickrack. And then this little journal card came from another children's book, and it's on index card. I like using index cards on the backs of things, and I use older ones so that it is naturally colored, but it has lines and makes it easy for you to write on it. This is the last signature. I had this fussy cut, and is he not the cutest thing? I love this turtle. A small piece of ledger, and if you notice, I have inked around the edges of I think pretty much every page in here because it helps with the aging, and it just really helps it stand out from the page behind it. And you can see on this piece of scrapbook paper that I have sewn around partially because it holds this cute little pocket on, and this is very vintage, very vintage. We had gotten, my husband's grandmother got a trunk she had. Somebody passed it on to me a while back, and it still had everything in it, and this was one of the things that was in it. I just love it. It's from a children's book again backed it with index card. This is just a piece of scrapbook paper that you can use or do whatever you want with. Piece of grid paper, and it has a little bead trim. And then this is I put this on here so just to show you that it opens up. But I love how the washi tape says dream, imagine, believe, and then it says I can be a tiger. And this page, this was actually, I have a whole bunch of these. They're actually like little mini file folders. It opens up, but I have glued it shut to make it a pocket. And I made this little card to put in there. This from a children's book as well. And on the back just has this brown paper. And if you can see, I cut a little divot in it there to help you get it back in here easier. And you're welcome to put something else in here, or use this and glue something else on it. Whatever you want to do. This is a vintage postcard, actually. But isn't it cute? And that just slips in there. And then I had a piece of scrapbook paper trying to get away from me. So it's actually a ocean thing. I just kind of stuck that in there as well. Now fussy cut them. Aren't they adorable? I have this ribbon running through this, and you're welcome to cut it off if it's sticking out too long for you. And then this came from a children's book as well, and I sewed it on. Love that. And then this has a vintage flashcard, since they have 3 boys. And it just slips in there, and I had this little card. That slips in there. And that is this journal. That's my little, whatever you call that, label. So that is this baby journal. I also made a journal board for her, and I just covered it with some children's book. This is for if you are going to write on, say, this paper. You can slip this behind it to give you a solid surface instead of all of the irregular stuff behind it, which may, make you, my words are not working. It may make it to where you punch a hole in the paper accidentally, but if you put this journal board behind it, that will help it. So this is the flip through on this little, I have this little baby's book. I have enjoyed thoroughly working on this. It is not, hugely babyish, because I just didn't have very much baby stuff. And I went to so many thrift stores looking for some vintage baby books that I could use in here. I couldn't find anything, and I hunted, couldn't find anything. So I just went through all I had, and I still love the way it turned out, because she can use it for all 3 boys if she wants to. So I hope y'all have enjoyed this, and so for today, may God bless you and keep you safe.